All right, so front's all put back together. I'm gonna actually not go with the caster plates and just try the drop with the drop bracket, because you can see from the factory position, it's moved forward about like an inch maybe. And then like I actually like the angle of the radius arm. It's not that bad. And we got the foam cell 6-inch lift shocks installed. We removed the front drive shaft with the CDL button engaged. Next, or the last thing really to do on the front, is install the extended brake lines, which I'll be getting next week. And then now we have the pleasure of doing the rear. So what we have left is the lower control arms, and these are double adjustable. You can they have threads here and here with locking nuts. These are double adjustable, just a different style. You have one kind of thread, well, yeah, they're double adjustable, and then you can just use a wrench right here for the rear upper control arm, and then lower. All right, so the procedure I use in order to get the rear shocks off is to jack with a bottle jack and some wood blocks the frame here, not here, because you're going to need access to this for what we're doing here. For a 6-inch lift. For a 2-inch lift, you don't have to, but even if you do jack here, you're going to have your angle cut off by whatever means you're jacking here. Same on the other side, right on the frame rail. And then I also like to get a jack underneath the diff housing, and I jacked it up under the diff housing to get that tire off, and then lowered it on a jack stand. Same with this side. That allows me access to the shocks. First thing I do with the shocks is I already had this bolt loosened, as well as the other side. And as well, since I'm doing all the control arms, I had these all loosened. The upper and the lower. Those are all loosened, as well the frame side on each. Once that's all loosened, then this will swing down and you have the opportunity to take all of this off a lot easier. I'm going to droop the axle all the way down eventually, now that I have my stationary jacks there and I have my jacks with wheels here. So this is a good method if you are at home and you don't have the luxury of having a nice 2-post jack. So we've got all of our links out, our upper links, I mean. So here's just a little bit of comparison. This is relatively thin diameter. I mean, Toyota has their engineering down pat, obviously, but you can see these ones are quite a bit beefier, and these are dual adjustable. So when I take these measurements here and extend these, I'm not going to worry too much about getting it exactly right, because I can do it on the truck when I go to a garage and do things by the book, which I'm not doing right now. Remember, you're going to have to retain your original hardware. So don't forget one nut, big washer, and the shoulder bolt. Yeah. All right. So first things first, we're going to do the same method we used with the panhard adjustable bar, which is we're going to insert a bolt through this hole so that we can get an accurate measurement of where we're starting through both of them, obviously. Okay, so this is the way Iron Man said it to me, so this is maybe a teeny bit longer than stock. So I haven't really done my geometry, and I'm not the most mathematically inclined, but I'm gonna say probably means that this piece has more to do with your pinion angle really than anything, the way that your axle flange is relating to your transfer case part of your flange on your drive shaft. This extending it is just going to increase your angle, where stock links with a 6-inch suspension is going to flatten it out and reduce your angle. So we need to have it back towards stock. So I ended up going with 1.5 inches longer than stock. That might be too much, but just thinking about how much of an actual lift it is, I think 1.5 inches will be good. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to end up doing 1.5 inches on the lower links as well, just to keep everything the same, because they look like they're at about the same angle when they're on the truck, but we'll find out soon. Another good point someone just brought up was I should probably anti-seize or grease these threads, given the girth of this and the fact that this is a larger nut. I don't want to have these seize up and not be able to adjust these easily. So I'm just going to go ahead and run some grease across the threads here. And this is just STP all purpose. There's probably, I might be doing the complete wrong grease and ruining this, I'm not sure, but I figure some grease is better than none anyways. So I'll go ahead and just give these a little bit of a coating, just enough to make them slide easier and hopefully not seize. So I actually found with the setup I'm using with 2 jacks for the axle and bottle jacks on the frame that it was easy enough for me to get the lower links, the lower control arms off as well as the upper. So now I'm going to go ahead and install the upper control arms that I've already adjusted and greased. Friendly reminder though, I realized this last time before it was too late. On this bolt here, which your control arm, your upper control arm will go to the frame with, remember to get your control arm in there first, and then I'm going to use that bolt to go in through here. There is no washer going inwards. Remember those little hash marks there, and this bolt has those hash marks. It's hard to see on camera, but it has those little notches. So that bolt goes into there. The washer and the nut go on the back side here. All right, so that's in there now. That's not gonna work, obviously. I'm gonna probably just re-shorten that and then get it into that hole, thread it lightly like this one, so I can get the spring on. The reason I have the spring off is because you can't pass through this bolt with the spring on there. So once the spring's back in, that's shortened, it's attached up here, then I'll go ahead and I'll do the rest just like that with the other side and install the lower links as well and not worry about how long the length is. I know that it's 1.5 inches that I want to extend it by. So I'll be doing these, and if my geometry is right, it might be actually longer on this because the overall length is longer. I could be mistaken. I'm going to review my math, but anyways, I'll get everything put back together, bolted lightly, and then like I said, I'm able to adjust those with the vehicle on the ground. And all I'm really looking for is these springs to not be bowed like this and to come back straight. So the axle is straight, because we need to fit 40s in this wheel well. So the axle has to be as centered as possible. I'm gonna get these springs back in, get all the arms bolted in, and then I'll catch you later. All right, so just like the upper trailing arms, we just went ahead and did 1.5 inches longer than the stock. Comparing the two, the middle diameter looks about the same. The outer casings though definitely look a little bit beefier. Anyways, I'm going to grease up the fine threads, all 4 of these, get the lock ring set, install these, and then finish up. All right, so now that we have our links in, we're gonna go ahead and put the hardware on our rear strut. So I just kind of wanted to show how it goes, because it was a little confusing to me when I first got it. So if you come over here, you can see you'll have your strut initially. You can come over here, you'll put your shock guard on it. Some of them have rubber boots, some of them have this plastic, which already has the integrated washer on the bottom. This is to prevent it from bottoming out, because there's that extra rubber bushing under there. So the bushing order is okay. These are the bushings that come with on each strut. So if you look, I'll put them in order of smallest diameter to largest, and then you have your 2 bushings. So we're gonna make 2 bushing burgers basically. So this is your smallest one. This will go on the very top. This will go on the very bottom. So this one goes first. Then you have a rubber bushing. And then you have this larger diameter, which has a little race, the larger diameter. And this goes here. And then you have your coil retainer, or I'm sorry, spring retainer, whatever you call this, the spring hat. And then from here, since that larger diameter race goes in the bottom, you put the smaller diameter race on top of that, and it actually fits inside so it doesn't move around. Then one more bushing, and then this is the smallest one. I'm going to be installing the Ironman Foam Cell Pro shocks. So these are a lot different than the struts that I have, or shocks that I had. Side by side, you can see the foam cell is bigger in diameter by like double. They're definitely beefier, they weigh more. The biggest thing, and it's gonna be hard for this to come through on camera, but obviously with your gas shock, I can compress it, and you see it slowly, you can hear it too. So I can compress it just like every other gas shock. Now the foam cell doesn't really work like that. The foam cell, you have to push and pull. So right now I have to pull incredibly hard in order to get it to extract, and it's extracting extremely slow. And then the same with putting it on or pushing it in. So the difference being that these are rebuildable, whereas the gas are not. So these are not rebuildable. These are not designed for a 6-inch lift. These are specific 6-inch lift shocks. And they're just like the other ones. They have the eyelet for the back. These are the rears. And they come with the option of doing the plastic sheath, which you can only do for the front. And I might do the rears with these rubber boots. I don't know, I haven't decided. All right, so everything is back together. I got the wheels on the ground and the vehicle's under its own weight. I had all the bolts loose, relatively loose anyways, just, you know, all the way snug, and then tightened everything when the vehicle's on the ground. One thing that I did have issues with is this proportioning valve here, the brake, the load pressure sensing proportioning valve. There's a clearance issue with your your upper link bolt going in there, so that does get in the way. I tried to take it off. There's 3 bolts, but I sheared that bolt off there, so I just figured I would not do that or go that route. So there still is a little bit of clearance issue there. I would recommend trying to get this bolt through here first before doing all the rest. Remember, you do have to put these in first because these bolts have the little notches on them. So these do need to go in before you do the springs. Same with this one, has to go in this way. I mean, you could theoretically do it the other way. I just wanted to keep it the way it is stock. Anyways, yeah, remember to do that one first. I had to ratchet strap the truck to the axle and get the whole thing to shimmy over that way. I'm going to take some measurements as far as, you know, everything here. The nice thing is, though, everything on here is adjustable now. So even though everything's put back together, you know, with the exception of this, I will have to undo one of these bolts. With that exception, pretty much everything's adjustable on the truck. Yeah, so I still have a few things that are loose because that's what I'm going to be doing later this week, is extending this brake line here. So as I count, I only need 3, 1 here and 2 up front, both on the axles, to extend, and I'm going to get those to Ironman as well. Ironman has a rubber kit, which I'm going to do with this, so the whole thing is rubber. That way there's no differentiation in compression issues with brake fluid and potentially busting these old Toyota lines. But to be honest, I've had the axle, you know, resting on this line, well, the brake line up front before, with the axle drooped, and it held up. So I know that these are overbuilt, just like most everything on 80s. But anyways, yeah, that's gonna patch it up for now. The shock tower mounts up there, those need to go in first, and you're actually going to have to keep this top bolt, and you're gonna have to keep that top nut relatively loose at first. You're gonna have to keep that relatively loose so that the mount has a little bit of play in it. That'll help you get those in, but you have to get those top ones in first, and then you can lower the truck and do what you need to get this one in. Actually, to get that one over the eye mount over the eyelet, I had to jack up the differential housing to get the pinion angle to line up so that these, I could get that shock eyelet onto the axle flange, whatever you call that. That was a little bit, you know, more difficult. This whole thing is just a bunch of, you know, you got to do this before you do that, before you, you know, so I think I went over everything as far as how to tighten everything down. I know these aren't the most fun videos to watch, but I'm just doing these hopefully so that when somebody in the future goes to install a 6-inch lift, that this can at least help someone. Yeah, so I think we are about done. I'm gonna finish. Oh, so yeah, you can just get up here with a 19 millimeter to tighten that nut. Normally you'd have to keep a wrench on that little nub, the little nipple on the end of it, so that you can turn it without the whole shock body turning. When the shock's under load like this, it actually doesn't matter. So you can just do it by hand up there because you have that little bit of room up there. Not much, but enough.